Hi there, I'm Trunks from Dragon Ball Z Abridged, and these are the Anime Egotists. You know, in the future, podcasts are a little bit different. They're actually from pods. You know, people trying to hide from the androids and everything. I had a favorite podcast for a while, but it got canceled. By the androids. They got killed by the androids. Don't get killed by the androids!
And welcome back to the Anime Egotists, where I'm not sure. Am I the Momoto or are you the Momoto? Which one is it?
I think I'm the Momoto.
Oh, good. Oh, good. That's not a good thing.
Well, I think you're better at reading, so that's probably why.
I definitely don't think that's true. I can barely read at the first grade level. But
Wow, that's impressive. I can only read it at like a 2-year-old level. I can read the letter A.
Oh gosh, that's not good in the slightest. But anyways, my name's Alex, and frankly, Majin Buu would not be trying to absorb me.
No, I don't think he did try to absorb me either. And I'm Richard.
That's correct. And with anime, you generally get something new every time, but every now and then you might get a remake or a reboot.
Exactly, and I mean, that's not remake and reboot have become kind of a dirty word in media over the last few years, but it's not always a bad thing because it can lead to a whole new set of fans of a series that might be outdated for some reason, and this gives them a chance to get new fans in, and maybe eventually they'll rewatch the original series and really enjoy it as well. It's just that this gives them a chance to really grow and accept the new series.
Yeah, and not to mention, there are also some times when the original doesn't exactly do the product's service. So in some cases, a remake or reboot is necessary. Some of you might be thinking, you've done this video before, and I find that hard to believe because that one, not a lot of people were watching our videos back then, and two, that video does not hold up. It's like the mic quality is pretty awful. It's horrible.
Hey, it took me what, 3 years of us no, I guess a year and a half of us doing this before I finally agreed to buy my own mic.
Yeah, and I'm glad you did. But we're still gonna do a sequel, regardless, of anime that we think deserves a reboot, remake, just in general. Like, anything.
Yeah, exactly. Again, we'll go over why we want this and what kind of we're thinking, because some of them may not necessarily be 100% a remake, it just sort of depends.
Yeah, I think so. You mind starting us off?
Sure. So the first one I have kind of falls into a category that's been remade a lot lately, and that's like the late 60s through the 70s and into the early 80s sci-fi remakes. So I have Space Captain Harlock. This is a series that kind of follows the same style as Star Blazers and Legend of the Galactic Heroes, and I think could make a really good remake. I don't know the story of this one, but it's one of those that I've wanted to watch. But I will admit, 70s and 80s animation is not the best. That is really very true for a lot of these shows.
And I have a couple on my list, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't even think I've heard of this show before. Even though there is one space-related anime that I have been thinking about giving a shot, if I could only remember the name of it. But I guess I really don't have much to say based on what you're giving me.
Yeah, from my understanding, well, he's a space pirate, of course, but it takes place in one of those kind of fictional future Earth where Captain Harlock is pretty much fighting for freedom and like and trying to end like tyranny on several different planets, from my understanding. It seems like it could be a really nice story and stuff, but there are a couple different series that all seem to take place maybe in the same universe, so I'm kind of confused on if it's another one where I need to start on a specific series or a specific movie and then watch the series. So it'd be nice to get like a full remake and update the visuals in the style more of the new Space Battleship Emoto or the new Legend of Galactic Heroes. Both of them have absolutely beautiful animations for the remakes. So I think this is another series that could do really well of the updating in sci-fi animation.
Does your dad know this series?
I haven't asked. I didn't. I always forget to ask him if he knows the series because it would have come out. This series is slightly older than Star Blazer, so it might have been before he was watching anything. So I don't know if he saw it.
Okay, but I guess I can co-sign. I don't really know the show that well.
Okay,
All right, my first show,
go right ahead.
IGPX.
That's the giant mech show, right?
Yeah, the Giant Mechs Racing. I'm gonna be honest, when this show first came on Toonami, I really didn't think it was anything special. But then I finally really started watching it. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. This is interesting. It's a little more adult, but still, it's cool. And then it kind of just fell off. I don't know. I was
Mhm.
kind of disappointed by it. It was during that weird period of time where Toonami was getting rid of like most of its good shows. Not whether that's their fault or not, I still don't know to this day. But I don't know, especially with the popularity of mech or mecha anime. Hey, I think something like it nowadays could be kind of cool. The video game itself was fun though.
Yeah, I vaguely remember watching like the first like when this premiered and it did I don't even think they finished the series before it got moved to like either late adult swim or something else and it was disappointing that it just sort of disappeared because I think this was also the time that they were switching to the Maguzi block instead of Toonami.
Something like that.
So yeah, I'll co-sign. I seem to remember liking the show. I just never got a chance to watch it all the way through.
Yeah, the first episode I saw, they said hell, like what the hell, or go to hell, all this stuff a lot. And I was in the room with my parents. My parents didn't care. They're just like, he's heard worse. It's okay.
Okay, I can co-sign. Um as I said, I remember liking like the one or two episodes I saw, but then again, I think that it did have issues streaming because Toonami, especially later Toonami, the when it was still on Cartoon Network, not Adult Swim, really did have timing issues.
Yeah. My friend loaned me the video game several years ago. I have never given it back. Though, to be fair, he's never asked for it.
Are you still even in contact with this friend?
Yeah, I just talked to him the other day.
Oh, well, you should offer to return his game because it's
He,
really not a nice thing.
he wouldn't care.
All right. So this one we've actually may have mentioned once or twice before, I think. And I think you'll agree. And that's Dragon Ball. The original series deserves the Kai treatment.
Not the show I thought you were going to say, but yeah, I do agree with that.
Yeah. There's a lot of extra filler and stuff in the series, but not nearly as much as Dragon Ball Z had. But I think updating the animation because this show is older than even Dragon Ball Z, so updating the animation a bit, giving them how to put it, just shortening some of the longer arcs, getting rid of the excess episodes. There are some scenes that I think that they would have to edit out now from what the 80s censors allowed on television is a
Hmm.
lot different than what they would allow now. So that's one possible issue that they'll have to deal with. But I think Dragon Ball deserves that, and I think that would give a lot of people who never gave it a chance because they grew up watching Z, and Z is a lot more action packed. A
Yeah.
chance to watch the original series.
Yeah, not to mention, if this is kind of a small thing. I really just want a redone version of Goku versus Chi Chi in the World Tournament, just so people can see he does love her. He just has a really, he's not great at showing it, but he does care about her. Because in my opinion, that's one of the best scenes of the whole franchise.
Yeah, I can understand that, and it gives all the human characters a good chance to shine that they never really got in the later series. I mean, some of them did, but not nearly as much as back when we thought Goku was just a human boy born with a monkey tail.
Well, now it sounds ridiculous when you say it like that.
That was what we thought when we first watched Dragon Ball. We didn't know he was the alien,
And we didn't question it for a second.
especially once it was revealed that he was.
Yeah, but I can co-sign. I can go side. I think the original Dragon Ball, like just something, just some nod to it. I think it could work.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a complete remake. As I said, cut some of the filler, make it, I guess, appropriate is the right word for modern audiences, and then re-release it with updated animation.
Yeah, but I can definitely co-sign.
All right, your next one.
All right, another Toonami show, Mare.
Okay.
Okay, this anime was kind of ahead of its time because it involves a boy who lives an ordinary life, a kind of boring life, and then he gets sent to another world, and it's a fantasy and adventure type show. If this had come out a couple of years later, it would have been huge thanks to the whole boom in isekai stuff and everything. But honestly, I kind of thought it had some untapped potential. Some of those jokes did not hold up, would not hold up, so they would have to fix that, but I just think the characters were likable enough to warrant some stuff. I thought the world was cool. I think it could have, in the right hands, it could have been bigger. Not huge, but definitely bigger.
I don't remember this show, which is really sad because I do like isekai. I'm just looking through images real quick. It looks like kind of like Isekai meets Bobobo because I see the face on his ball and chain.
Yeah, but just a heads up, Bobobo was not on my list. It's too perfect. It doesn't need to be touched.
No, I can understand that. I didn't include it on mine either, so
Yeah, but like I said, it's just one of those things where it's an isekai. If it had come just a little bit later, it would have been swept up.
yeah, that's I mean, I've watched a lot of isekai because that's one of my favorite genres, but even I've gotten a little over it lately. Haven't watched nearly as many episodes this season of shows that I used like I watched a whole bunch the last few seasons and just I don't think I started a single thing this season.
And it's weird because usually I like slice of life and comedy stuff, but I've been watching more action shows lately.
Yeah, you got to get kind of a break every so often from what you normally watch. Like I watched a slice of life, forgot which one it was recently, but again, I didn't. It was okay. It wasn't the best one I've seen, but I wanted something that wasn't. I'm getting transported to another world and going to be the hero of that world because I've watched way too many of those back to back.
And from what I can tell, you're still not huge on Konosuba.
Nope.
Yeah, but like I said, Mayor, was there anything super special about the show? No, but not everything has to be special. Sometimes you can just have a show just to have a show.
Exactly. All right, my next one.
Go for it.
All right. So this one coincides with the re-release of the video games, and I think they at least need to re-release the entire anime in the sub, just so that Americans that can actually finish it. Mega Man NT Warrior. I
Uh,
know I've talked about it a lot and lately, but I'm excited for the legacy legacy collection that's coming out.
I'm not upset that you brought it up. I'm more upset that you specifically just said NT Warrior.
Right now, it's this is the one I grew up watching and like and playing the games. I know you had Star Force was the one you watched and played, but they have to wait what 5 more years and then they'll probably get their re-release of every
Technically,
game.
they don't have to wait at all. They could forget. Just go ahead.
If they continue the current what they've done with every single version, it'll be 5 more years because that's what they've done with I think it was Mega Man X, the original series, Mega Man X, now NT Warrior. So,
Sure.
uh, well, I guess Battle Network is the name of the games, but um, again, we've never gotten an English dub finish of this series, which I doubt we'll ever actually get. I People got really hyped because they thought we were getting something because they brought back Mega Man's voice actor, which I'm 99% sure was just for the opening screen that they revealed a while back. He did some voiceover for that. Um, it I could be wrong, but I think that that's all we're getting from him. Um, but even just finishing the series subbed, it is subbed somewhere out there. So getting like an HD release of the series would be great, but I can hope that maybe we'll get a complete redub, but I doubt it.
In all honesty, I did very much enjoy the Battle Network stuff, but I enjoyed the probably enjoyed the games more than the anime because for the longest time I didn't know where the anime was. I didn't even know there was an anime for the longest time. I actually followed the manga instead.
Which one? There's like five versions of the manga.
I don't remember. I don't. It was one copy. The same friend who gave me IGPX, his dad bought that for his dad bought the one issue of the manga for me, and I read it for a while.
Hmm. Yeah, again, as I said, I don't think this is going to happen just unless the game does really well and shows that there's an interest in it, then they may release everything subbed, which would be great because then at least I could finish the series because I want to watch the I don't know, four series that and this that completely tell the rest of the story that they had. But until they've released that, there's not really much I can do.
Yeah, but also Star Force. But yeah, I can co-sign on to that.
All right, your next one.
Fist of the North Star.
Okay.
Honestly, you wouldn't really have to change all that much. Just update the animation look, I know certain streaming companies are like, oh, well, we can't show too much blood and gore because no, it's Fist of the North Star. You're supposed to show that stuff. It's supposed to be brutal. It's supposed to be unnerving. It's supposed to be badass. So I want this to go into the right hands because this is an incredible anime. But a lot, like we've said before, a lot of people could be turned off by the older art style. Heck, a lot of people do the whole Omae wa mo shinderu thing, and they don't even know what it is. I'm just like,
Mhm.
you, come on. At least the first episode, come on, something. But just, I think Fist of the North Star. I feel like it could be timeless, even with an update.
Yeah, I can understand that again. As I mentioned with Space Pirate Captain Harlock, the older animation, especially 70s, some of it can look really nice, but they do have a lot of times where they have a lot harder lines that they drew at that point. The style has evolved so much since uh, these shows were coming out. So getting an updated, and I'm not talking when we talk about that, we're not talking computer animation most of the time. I don't most of the time that doesn't look great.
Wait, aren't you the one who said CG can look good?
It can, but when you make a full show, which I may talk about later on one of mine, that's like all CG, it doesn't always transition, especially when it starts out as 2D drawings in
Yeah, I
manga.
can understand that. I guess I can understand that. But yeah, Fist of the North Star. I kind of feel like you could do something with it.
Yeah, I think that would be a good one to remake, especially because it's considered one of the cult classics and is given, and I think with an update would get a lot more people into it.
Yeah, heck, you could make some of the attacks look even cooler nowadays.
Exactly. All right, so my next one.
Go for it.
So this one is considered like one of the biggest classics animes that was ever dubbed, but it's dubbed very poorly. Speed Racer.
I don't know. I kind of feel like we need to do a watch along watching the old Speed Racer just for a laugh.
Yeah, I could understand that, and but I think this getting a really nice updated animation with all the gadgets on the car and the big races, this could be really nice to look at and watch all this going on. It's one of those. I never really watched it. I know it was on Toonami for a little while when I was a kid, but I was a little young, I think, when it was still on Toonami. They got replaced it with all the newer stuff when we were really watching.
Yeah, I mean, I know for a fact my dad watched the original Speed Racer, and even he kind of tells me, yeah, it wasn't spectacular.
But imagine an updated version where they focus more on it. You can even have it have comedic moments where they jokingly have the voices not quite match up, and like the mouth keeps moving.
Oh god. I would want them to do one episode where they clearly make it out to be a total mess, but it's completely intentional.
Yeah,
Like an alternate universe or something.
yeah, and I think, as I said, updated animation with uh all the different gadgets on the car would be really cool to watch how they do these races.
Yeah. And that something like that has actually given me more ideas. If for some reason we ever decide to do a sequel to what other franchises could be turned into anime, but I kind of don't think I want to do that list again.
Probably not.
But it's like, but you could get everybody else who's on that video. Yeah, that's the problem.
They'd all want to come back and talk about it again.
Yeah, well, no, they all want to come back, and we don't want them to come back.
Hi, former roommates.
Yeah, but Speed Racer, I could definitely sign on to that. Maybe my parents would be interested in it.
Well, I guess it's my turn to ask. You ask your dad about it and see if he thinks that's a good idea.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he downstairs doing something, but I don't know. Maybe he would like it.
All right. Your next one?
God Eater.
Okay.
Okay, some of you might be thinking, well, why don't they just continue where they left off since they never adapted God Eater 2 into an anime? But I guess kind of my problem with the first, and I haven't played that much of the original God Eater game, so maybe it's just a game thing. But to me, as serious and as scary and as even kind of heartbreaking as some of the stuff is, these games are goofy. And I kind of feel like the original anime didn't capture that nearly as much as it could have been. I don't know. I kind of would have liked a couple more moments where there are people relaxing, not taking it as seriously, and just which is probably why I love two so much. There's sad stuff, but there's also ridiculously funny stuff. Uh, so maybe start from the beginning again, kind of do everything, add some more comedic moments, get to two because two is amazing, and just other stuff like that.
Okay. I don't know God Eater well enough to really say yes or no, but uh, I know you've really liked it. It's one of those that I've debated either getting the first game and trying that out, or uh, watching the original anime that you mentioned, but I just haven't gotten around to it. It's another one that's kind of farther down on my list. Eventually, I'll probably watch it.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, it doesn't have to be completely over the top and goofy, but just like a couple more moments here and there. And apparently, the games sell like alarmingly well. So I have no idea why maybe the anime didn't do well for the same reasons I've been saying, but who knows? Maybe. But God Eater, I think maybe it could do some stuff. Maybe it can do some stuff if they tried again.
Probably. All right. Honorable mentions time, I believe.
Okay.
So my first honorable mention is probably one of the newer ones on my list. And that's Ice Shield 21. It's I don't know, there's something about it that just feels off on the animation. Now, maybe that's how it was drawn. I haven't gone back and looked at the manga. So I just put it as an honorable mention because I didn't really I like the show. I've watched at least the first part of it. I don't think I've seen it all, but it's a really interesting one because it's a Japanese take on American football, and I'm a big American football fan. So
Is it working out that well for either of us?
hey, my team's 2-1, so yes.
And my team is 1-2. But hey, at least we finally started winning.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed it getting a perspective of someone who is obviously a fan because they like I can't imagine that they don't like the series or the sport itself because um it's really well done and described really well in the series. So I'd want to go back and rewatch the series again, but the animation, as I said, something just feels off. I don't know what it is. I want to go back and watch it again to make sure I still feel the same way, but I that's why it's an honorable mention.
Yeah, and especially considering with how many football players nowadays are openly anime fans, you could attract a wide Heck, I'm sure if you made characters based on football players and they said, "Hey, do you mind voicing yourself?" They would jump at the chance.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. For those of you who didn't know, I'm a Falcons fan. Richard's a Bears fan. It's never worked out in particular for us.
No, no, it has
Yep,
not.
yep. Your team has a running back, and my team has a quarterback who fumbles a lot.
Yeah. We have a good O line for rushing the football, but not for holding on long enough to block for passes.
Speaking of not being able to hold on to leads for the Falcons, because it's yeah.
God, y'all have been cursed since that Super Bowl.
When we almost broke it with the no, no, never. This not the time, not the place. If Tom Grossi ever gets us on, then maybe we'll talk about it later.
Oh God, yeah, that would be interesting because he's such a big Packers fan.
Yeah, yeah, that makes things okay. So, but Ice Shield 21, yeah, I can co-sign onto that.
All right, your next one.
Uh, Kuma Miko.
Okay.
I've talked about this show before. You don't take a girl with social anxiety and have her fail at her quest to overcome it at the end. When the author himself says, "You guys did a bad job adapting this, something is wrong." Put it in the hands of somebody who will know how to end it, continue the story, and just don't piss off the author. It's one thing for the fan base to be like, "I didn't like that ending. I didn't appreciate that." But when the actual author says, "You kind of betrayed my work," it doesn't sit well. It is an interesting story. So I'd like to think that if people actually tried and like paid attention, then maybe they could find a way to actually save this and make it an anime that people would like. Because the last time they tried it, not so much.
Okay. I don't know the story well enough to know how the endings are changed, but yeah, no, if the author himself comes out and says that that's the big, yeah, no, you've someone fucked up.
Yeah, yeah. I mentioned it before on the worst anime conclusions, and I struggled getting through it because I was still so angry about it.
Okay. Yeah, I can understand that. As I said, I don't know the anime well enough, so I'll just co-sign.
Yeah, but yeah, that's all I got for it.
All right. My next honorable mention is Rave Masters. So this is the
That was almost on my list.
yeah. This is one that follows or is the first kind of I guess it's the first major series by the creator of Fairy Tail. I forgot his name off the top of my head.
Of course it is.
Um, but this one's hard to find, first off, but then from my understanding, the subbed is actually really well liked. They say it's voiced well and did well, but this was also the height of English openings, and this one is definitely like I joke about the pirate rap not being great. It has its moments and is its own unique, but this one is really bad. I think I showed it to you before.
I don't remember particularly loving it, but I also don't remember it all that well, which kind of makes it worse.
Yeah, it's the stereotypical where they chant what they're actually going after and what's happening and stuff in the series is the
Zoids,
opening. Yeah.
Zoids, Zoids.
A bit more than that at least, but uh
So from the sounds of it, it sounds like you're saying it because oh well the sub sounds good, but also mainly just sounds like you just want to get the theme song. Oh, you just want a new theme song to erase the other one.
that and it seems like it could be a really cool story because it's a, it's another it's kind of the stereotypical early 2000s story where we've got to collect something. It kind of follows the Inuyasha plotline. We've got to collect the shards of the stone. So I can understand why it may never get remade because it is very similar to another series that was came out a little bit before it.
I mean, to be fair, a lot of shows are kind of similar to each other nowadays. So if
Mhm.
anything, it might just blend in perfectly.
Yeah, that's very true, but it could use probably a bit of a polish on the animation, and then if they decide to dub it, then great, it's got a new dub. If they don't, then okay, it's sub is at least then we'll get a sub version that's easier to find.
Yeah, but I can definitely co-sign onto that. I've been wanting to give it a chance.
All right, your next honorable mention.
Okay, I had to combine these two. Uh, Beyblade and Bakugan.
Okay.
Now, I'm not gonna speak on the newer series of Beyblade or the newer series of Bakugan because I haven't seen either. Been wanting to give them a chance, but I just haven't had the time yet. But it always makes me kind of sad because both of the original forms of these anime, in my opinion, are really solid. Sure, not everything holds up about it, but that's kind of why I think a retelling of the original story, especially since as much as I appreciate them moving on to newer casts, as a newer cast of characters and newer stories, which I feel like more anime nowadays should be doing, I do kind of miss the original characters. So it's an honorable mention because it's not completely necessary compared to others, but it's more of I just kind of miss the older shows. So seeing the characters again in a new style might work for me.
Okay. I mean, it would be harder to update too much with the Bakugan because it is older now, but it's not terribly old yet. So
Yeah,
the animation's not necessarily the worst. Beyblade, it's on a bit of the older side now. Not, I mean, it's still not 20 years old or anything, or is it?
I'm
I
almost well. Considering there was a PlayStation One game that my dad got me that I just completely burned the disc on, but I don't know.
okay. Okay, then yeah, maybe it is older than I thought. So I know it came out. It was kind of in that same list that was the original Yu-Gi-Oh, the original Pokemon, maybe like the first few episodes of Naruto were all kind of that same age of late 90s, early 2000s. But so I can understand wanting an update. Go ahead.
Okay, for Beyblade, the manga came out in 1999.
Okay, so the anime is probably 2000, 2001 original episodes.
The anime it came out in 2001,
Okay, so I
so a
was
little over 20 years.
okay, yeah, so it's a bit older than I thought it was, but
Not as old as us though.
God, my bones, they hurt.
What bones? Oh mine are just completely gone at this point.
Okay. But yeah, now I'll co-sign on to those. It would be interesting, especially Beyblade, to get an update with the original story told, because
Yeah, it just makes some of the battles just completely shonenized. It's like just make it completely over the top and ridiculous.
I want a Beyblade series that they get all action for the let it rip, and then it zooms out as if you're a camera in the stands. And it's just way far back. You can just see these two tops spinning. You don't actually see any of the actual
Oh,
battles. It's just
oh
like
god,
that.
it's so lame. They're just like, when's the fun start? What are you talking? This is the fun part. All right, I'm going home.
Don't you see the dragon that came out of one and the knight that came out of the other one? They're fighting
No,
to the death.
no, forget that, forget this. I'm going back to Soul. I'm going back to Deathmeister Cat. I'm going back to the Soul Eater world. I'm out. I'm done.
Oh God, no, but yeah, as I said, I'll co-sign. I think they had pretty nice things to look at when we were kids, but I think an update would be nice.
Yeah. Okay. So what's your next honorable mention?
All right, my next honorable mention is Lupin the Third, specifically the first, the second, and the third series, because those were the ones from like the 70s and 80s. This is another one that could probably, I don't know how much is filler in some of the series, because some of like the first season's like 24 episodes, so that's perfectly fine. The next one's like 50, and then or season two's 150, but it's also hard to find like I could watch it all subbed. But if I wanted to watch it all dubbed, again, that's my preference because I like to be able to play a video game while I'm watching the series or something else mindless. And with subbed, I can't do that. So because I have to concentrate and read the script because I don't understand Japanese.
Yeah, but I can co-sign onto that. It's always been something that I've. It's been one of those anime that I don't feel like a lot of people say it's my favorite of all time, but it's definitely
Mhm.
something that everybody seems to know and talk about. So an
Mhm.
update, I think it might be able to help. I could kind of see that.
Yeah, and it's a series that's technically still going on, or at least it was up until a couple of years ago. They released like Lupin the Third Part 5 or Part 6, I can't remember which came out in like 2019. So it's the most recent part has only come out a few years ago. So the series is still at least popular enough to keep getting more seasons. So a remake of the original series, or even a really nice updated animation movie telling the story of the first one, if they're able to do that, maybe would work.
I completely co-sign and agree with that.
All right, your last honorable mention.
My last honorable mention, the original Yu-Gi-Oh series.
Okay,
And by that I specifically mean season 0.
okay.
All right, look. I'm not of the mindset of when people say, "Oh, season 0 was the best because it was so dark." I don't necessarily believe that, and I've never seen season 0, so I can't necessarily disagree. But I always kind of like the concept that each episode kind of focused on a new game,
Mhm,
and like Bakura in particular would be very huge into like making his own games or all. Like it
mhm,
makes it so Yugi's ultimate goal in Dark Side Dimensions being, oh, I want to make a game that we can all play together someday. It makes it feel a little more earned rather than just playing dual monsters, which I do love, but it adds a little more to it. And
mhm.
supposedly some of the manga and stuff was really interesting with each different game. So, I don't know, maybe something.
I owned the manga that was season 0. We got it, I think, at either a school scholastic book fair or from one of the bookstores that was in the area. And yeah, we got it because I was really into Yu-Gi-Oh! And we thought it was just going to be, oh, it's going to be telling the story of the anime. And it's like, oh no, he's pretty much killed some people in this series.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like 6 when I got the manga. Because
Oh, goodness.
yeah, I was like 6 or 7 when I got it, and it was like, oh wow, that's a lot darker than it I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just thought the concept was kind of interesting. I know Dual Monsters completely took over her, but I still think it could be kind of cool. Not to mention that one friend or classmate they had with the blue hair, whatever her name is. Part of me wants to know what the hell happened to her.
Yeah, and it would be funny to see Kaiba completely portrayed kind of the opposite of how he actually is, where he's because from my understanding in the because I only had the part 1. I know there's part 2 that involves Kaiba, and he's like a nice guy.
I don't know if that was just the abridged series or what, but a nice Kaiba sounds terrifying to me.
Well, from my understanding, it's I mean it's all an act, but from my understanding he is that way in the manga, but I could be wrong. I don't know for sure. That's what
Still,
I've been told.
I mean, I feel like the voice actor would be completely up for it. But yeah,
Yeah.
the original Yu-Gi-Oh, not more actual games, less focus on the card games.
Yeah, and I don't know. If they decide to do it, then great. We get a really dark story that leads into pretty much what is again one of the better or early 2000s animes that were made at the time that's continued to this day.
Yeah, as long as it's not too dark. Like,
I mean,
well, let me put it this way: as long as there are some comedic moments here and there, because if it's just
okay.
nonstop dark stuff, then I'm not going to be into it.
No, okay, I can understand that. Okay, yeah, because I was gonna say there's a lot of death in this first part, and I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
mean going to the sh they can say, oh, he went to the Shadow Realm. Yeah, he had a glass of alcohol he was pouring with a lighter lit on him. So yeah, no, he burned to death.
Yeah, but it could work.
All right, so my last one.
Go for it.
All right, so the last one I have for this list is Berserk because
Almost on my list.
yeah, this one, the original series is really good, but again, it doesn't finish the story and ends on really dark note of Griffith betraying everybody and all that. So,
I thought that was the good ending.
oh, okay. Well, then I really don't want to remake then. No, but then getting I guess it was the next arc in the series. I don't know for sure, but getting another arc in the series that's and they did that really bad CGI. It's like this is what I mentioned earlier, where it's like CGI doesn't always work. If it can be done well. We've seen it done well before, but not here. This should have been uh really nicely made in a nice art style of but 2D animation more likely. At this point, the entire series should just start from the beginning and retell the entire series. I don't know if it'll ever happen because of modern like they couldn't I don't know if they could tell the whole start of the series without getting a much higher rating than they would want, but who knows?
Yeah, I guess I can coast both sides. That's like I don't even the first part. I don't know if I necessarily think it could be touched without people going crazy. But like the stuff that came out in like 2016, 2015, whenever it was, yeah, that you can cut all of that and just start from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I don't even like maybe you could just reanimate the original in a nice animation style. Then maybe and then continue the series from there if you have to switch voice actors because I don't know if their voice actors are still alive or still sound the same. So, but that could be an interesting one to either get a continuation in a nice 2D animation, and again, I think that would make the fans a lot happier than what they got. So,
Yeah, but you can still keep the happy ending of the original, so that's completely fine.
well, I mean, Griffith got everything he wanted, so
Yeah, yeah, he's like all the yeah, and I think Guts is that the protagonist's name? That's his name, right?
yeah.
Yeah, Guts needs to settle down. He needs to go hang out with all the other anime villains like Jonathan Joestar, Ash Ketchum, and Nina Tucker, and stop ruining the lives of the people we care about.
Exactly. I mean, the hero always does everything he needs to do to save the day and get what he deserves.
Exactly. Oh, we made a Nina Tucker joke. This podcast is gonna go down. Oh gosh.
Oh
How,
God.
how about we? How about we? I say my last one before we get canceled or something.
Go right ahead.
I have never brought this anime up on the channel, and it makes me sad because I still haven't even completely seen it. Beautiful Joe.
Okay.
I kind of think this show, based on the game and based on like the few clips I've seen, is kind of a cool action series, but it's so flippin' goofy at the same time. I feel like Beautiful Joe is a show that you could just remake and no one would complain about necessarily. But sadly, since the anime is kind of hard to find, which is weird, the dub is very easy to find. The sub, not so much. The sub is this thing that's you really have to go out searching for.
That is really weird because normally it's really hard to find a good version of the dub, but you can find the sub because a lot of the subs get re-released much more often than the dubs do.
Yeah, apparently Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal's the same way. The dub is completely easy to find. The sub is just a not. It's just people think it's hard.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think Beautiful Joe is a goofy enough premise and characters and everything that I feel like it could come back and people would go nuts for it.
I can understand that. I vaguely remember, this wasn't on Kids WB. I don't
I
it
think it
was
might have been.
hmm. I always thought it was supposed to be more mature than other shows, so I could be, but maybe it was like, okay, the last thing we're showing is Beautiful Joe. Your parents should be up by now, so we can get them to stop you from watching it if they don't want you to.
Yeah, so you can turn so when Beautiful Joe has the camera zoom in on the enemies, if they could start air thrusting. It was a bizarre thing.
Yeah, I remember not understanding it, but I don't think I watched it from the beginning, so I didn't understand the premise. So
I love how little kid you thinks I'm not understanding it, They should make it so I can understand this, and you're not watching from the beginning. I don't think that's the show's fault.
Well, I mean, a lot of times I would miss like 1 week, and it's like, okay, in Pokemon you could more than likely catch up or understand what was going on.
I'm not sure that's a good thing.
Yugi, for the most part, you can understand. So, yeah, I don't know.
I can't tell you how much I hate 6-year-old Richard. I can't tell you how much he annoys me right now.
Oh god, I miss Kids WB and watching cartoons on there and anime when they were on there.
Yes, so do I. But getting back to it, I think Beautiful Joe is a quirky, weird, yet somehow cool enough series that I feel like if it came back, I think it could definitely get some good eyes on it.
I'll co-sign. Again, I don't remember this show well enough. I know exactly what you're talking about. I just don't know what was 100% about. Again,
it was a bizarre show. Oh, and his catchphrase when he morphed, "Henshin a go-go, baby." Still not one of the worst catchphrases I've heard in the anime, because you hear so many more bad ones.
Exactly.
But is that it? Do you co-sign? Are we ready to close out?
Yeah, I think we're ready to close out.
Alright, so ladies, gentlemen, and others, what anime do you think could be rebooted or remade? Something newer? Something older? Something you love? Something that just didn't get the proper love it deserved the first time? Just anything, let us know.
Exactly.
And be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and just anything, just to support us, because I'd like to think that if you're still watching these videos after all this time, you want us to succeed in some regard.
Yeah, I think we've probably knocked off 4 of our subscribers, probably because we just told them we don't want them back on. So, tell your friends.
I'm okay with that. What are they gonna do? Nothing whatsoever about it.
That is very true.
But anyways, be sure to let us know what you think in the comments, and we will see you next time. This has been Alex.
And Richard.
And you have been listening to the Anime Egotists. Good night. Peace easy.